All right, y'all. We back up in this piece. Welcome to another episode of the Southern Comfort Podcast. Just because the government shut down don't mean we need to shut down. It only intensifies with us. So glad y'all can make it. Kev, how you doing?
Good. I think you and I are both sleep deprived. This is I guess a special episode because we are gonna drop this one outside of our normal day because we wanted to see how the elections turned out. And so yeah. But I'm feeling good. I got to sleep in a little bit
That's right.
this
Well,
morning. First
I
time in a
did.
few days, so feeling good.
I didn't. I did not. I did not. Got in like 2:30, 2 o'clock last night or this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Had to wake back up at 4:30 to get ready to get out of here. Actually, was
Mm-hmm.
late
Mm-hmm.
getting to where I needed to be. Came home after, you know, that whole ordeal and crashed. And so,
Mm-hmm.
you know, luckily
Mm-hmm.
we had to do this episode, right? 'Cause otherwise I'd still be asleep.
Mhm, mhm,
But, this is a show where we try to make sense of politics below the Mason-Dixon line and above.
mhm,
And how do we even start to talk about last night? You know what I'm saying?
mhm,
Um, as if you were under a rock and you're just coming out, yesterday was election day. We had key races locally and nationally. For those who don't know, after a presidential race, the first set of races that kind of sets the tone going into the midterm, the gubernatorial midterm, are New Jersey and Virginia races. Um, and then you had some special races in California dealing with Prop 50. You had municipal races that were key across the country. And
mhm.
so, we wanted to make sure that we got all the facts that we could before leading you guys down our podcast rabbit hole of our foolishness and facts, foolishness and facts, right? And so,
Mhm,
what better place to start than our home state, Georgia,
mhm, mhm,
where something historic happened. First time in 25 years, Georgia Democrats were able to flip 2 seats on the Public Service Commission. I know y'all like, what the hell is the Public Service Commission? Well, the great poet, Young Jeezy, uh, has a line that says, "It's kind of hard when Georgia Power won't give lights free." And the Public Service Commission does that. They regulate utilities. So you think your energy, telecommunications, they regulate the policy for that. And so the big thing that was on the agenda this cycle for that was your power bill, your light bill. Georgia Power is hiking it up. So if you got your hydroponic plants in home, you can see your bill skyrocketing. If got a bunch of kids all on the Wi-Fi, guaranteed your bill is about to go up. And that's just because of the regulations that the PSC Commission sets. And so for the last 25 years, the PSC been run by Republicans, right? Every seat is a statewide seat, but it's broken down into regions. And it's been run by Republicans, and they have been basically like destroying your pockets when it comes to the light bill. So, you know, how did they win on one of these races? I think this race kind of helped fuel what they've seen as a potential road back to, a Democrat rule here in Georgia or a purple rule here in Georgia. Um, and Kevin, for someone who no longer lives in the state, but keeps a close eye on it, because I actually thought about
mhm,
running for this position once.
mhm.
Before we like dive into it, what did you see from your 30,000 foot view? Because this was a race that you were tracking.
Yeah, what I saw from it was twofold, right? This has been a race where we've been trying to sneak a Democrat in for years, and because it's a race that's overlooked. But like you said, it's a statewide position, and it is a perfect position to elect people statewide and really build down ballot, right? And build your pipeline, right? We need a pipeline in the South of people that can win statewide, and PSC is one of those races, but we could just never get people to focus on it, right? People never really wanted to fund those races. And then even like the voters, right, didn't really understand it because remember when we had that historic election where Warnock was elected for the first time, Senator Warnock, on the same ballot, there was a PSC race. And Warnock won, but we lost PSC, and both were black men at the time. So you had a whole bunch of people show up and vote for Warnock and just left PSC blank, mainly because they probably just didn't know what it was or the importance of the position. And so for us to be able to win two of those seats simultaneously with the kind of turnout that we saw, right? It was a perfect moment, where they say preparation meets opportunity. And we had been preparing, trying to get these races in the pipeline. And then we had an opportunity, this week with those elections, and we were able to pull it out. And so now you have two good Democrats there that can help to do something that really impacts, people's bottom lines and their pockets. And you potentially have two people that could look to run for other offices, right? Like these are the types of offices where your bench comes from. Um,
Uh-huh.
so it's wonderful, and I think it also the other thing that I saw too in that race is that it really sets the stage for Ossoff next year when he's going to have to run. He's going to be one of the most vulnerable Democratic incumbents, and that level of enthusiasm and turnout was a very positive sign for his campaign as well.
Yeah, yeah. So, right, like I think you said it right. For a state that has been trending purple,
Mm-hmm.
um, that has gone, meaning it's gone blue for in presidential races, but down ballot or the state legislature itself does not resemble how it went during the presidential. Um, it was interesting because this would normally be a race that is further down the ballot than at the top, and this was at the top, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It it is what helped fuel a lot of the other races out there locally that needed support. So it tells us a few things. First, um, Democratic organizing in Georgia isn't just about the top of the ticket anymore, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
now they hopefully see that. Hopefully, second, voters are starting to pay attention to their power bill. Like,
Well, I think they've been paying, they just didn't know who fault it was. Now they done figured out
yeah,
what a
yeah.
what a PSC commissioner is, and yeah, they watching them. So yeah.
I think third, it actually takes a closer microscope to the infrastructure in Georgia for the Democrats, right? Like,
Mhm.
I'm not going to say that this race was won in a conventional way. There wasn't much door knocking. There was heavy digital push, heavy amplification from um, I wouldn't say endorsers or amplifiers, but just everyday people, right? Like when you looked at the
Mhm.
ads, it was a diverse coalition of people talking about their light bill and why this is
Yeah.
important, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think they got it right in terms of messaging.
Mhm.
Even our good friends Jake and Maria over at First Edition Strategies, right?
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
ran a couple of digital ads for this race, and so
Mhm. Mhm.
um, also it brought in a diverse coalition of consultants and vendors to help push the message and get it out there in different ways and not sticking with the same cookie cutter folks who are just going to copy and paste the same strategy from other avenues. And so, but then on the other side, where I say it fueled a lot of races, you didn't cover this. There's a 24 or 28-year-old young black man with dreads that is now the mayor of Marietta, Georgia.
That one,
And the
yeah, go ahead. That one
and the
snuck by
mayor
me. I didn't realize that. Yeah.
The former mayor has been mayor for 24 years. So you got this old, wrinkly, white raisin guy who is saying, and folks who don't know, Marietta is 30 minutes west of Atlanta. Is in Cobb County. And if you live here, you know you don't want to get caught in Cobb County. The Cobb County police don't play. You don't want to go to Cobb County jail. It's a suburb of Atlanta, but it still has an urban effect to it. But finally, because so many people turned out for this election and his candidacy uh, kind of brought up a lot of racial aspects to the surface in Cobb County.
Yeah. Black man with
He
dreads. Yeah.
black man with dreads, right? Like,
Mhm.
whoa,
Mhm.
very, very progressive candidate, right? But he did his thing. And you saw it. We had a couple races in Atlanta as well where progressive candidates, favored better than most people thought.
Yeah.
And
That yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was because of turnout for the PSC race, and so you know,
It definitely was like turnout for the PSC race, right? And that's one of the things too, right? Like we want to win at the top in Georgia and in these southern states too, but we also want to make sure we're building our bench, and you want to see a trickle down, right? That's how you also tell if we're a true battleground or not, and if we're progressing. And in everything that you said, there's a lot of positive things there, right? Number one, like you said, we did have trickle down and other people benefited from it. Number one. Number two, you saw diverse candidates breaking through that people don't typically think of as the South, right? You just mentioned a
uh
young black man with dreads winning one of the races. In addition to PSC that I worked on was in Duluth. We have elect the first Asian American to any office ever in Duluth. She ran as an independent. She's 36 years old. And she got into that race 3 months before election day, and won without, and we were able to win without a runoff. You look at even in Atlanta, you had a very contested race for city council president. You had an Indian American man like almost win, 49% of the vote, right? And so what all that says to me is that, the South is more diverse than people realize. It's okay to embrace that diversity, right? These were diverse candidates who were winning. PSC, white man, black woman, right? These were diverse candidates who won these races. And it shows the coalition that we can build when we focus on like affordability, right? And that came through not just in Georgia, but in all the other races that we'll talk about, as well. And one of the things we did with the ads that we made for the PSC race is what I like to do with down ballot races is most people don't understand what the race is, right? So in explaining to them what the race is, like you got to make it relevant for people, right? That's why we talk so much about your Georgia Power bill. People are like, I don't know what the hell a PSC commissioner is, but I know my bill is too much and I'm pissed about it. So who do I see about that? That was like the strategy, and like Republicans had no answer for it. So just like in a lot of these successes that we saw across the country, affordability seems to be one of the issues for how you can build a broad, diverse coalition and win. And hopefully, the party listens and sticks with that.
so I think you jumped in the car because you ready to go up 85 real quick. We're gonna take a ride up north to the Mason Dixon line, right there in
Mm-hmm.
Virginia, right
Mm-hmm.
where Abigail Spanberger,
Mm-hmm.
who just dominated and made history with her running mate as well.
Mm-hmm.
Virginia now has the first statewide elected um, female governor and Muslim lieutenant governor,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so
Mm-hmm.
you talk about that, and then even more so in New Jersey, right? You have Mikey Sherrill.
Yeah.
She is now the governor elect of New Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
and both these women ran on economics, right?
Yeah.
Something that
Yeah.
we strayed away from in previous elections. We tried to make it more about social issues, but at the end of the day, people care about one thing first and one thing only. That is your pockets, right?
That's right. That's right. And
Even amongst young men voters, right? The Democratic, we keep losing. Both Spamberger and Cheryl, they did very well with men, particularly between the ages of 18 and 29.
that's right. They won those demographics. And, remember so much of the analysis coming out 2024 the autopsies of how we lost that, right, is because those were some of the core groups that we were hemorrhaging with. And a lot of it, and you and I talked about this before. I don't know how much we got to cover it on the show, but one of the things, coming out of 2024 was how much of that hemorrhaging was due to Kamala's race and Kamala's gender. Well, here it is. You
Mhm.
had two women, and they won on those issues. They won men on those issues. So maybe it wasn't all sexism. Maybe it wasn't sexism at all. That's not to say that there wasn't sexism and that sexism doesn't exist. It most absolutely does. But maybe that doesn't factor into people's vote as much as folks may have traditionally thought. And one thing that I want to also mention too that's interesting about those races that we've talked about as well is that in each of those campaigns you also had the presence of a black man on the ticket, right?
Mhm.
Mikey
Mhm.
Sherrill's running mate for lieutenant governor was a black man. In Virginia, Jay Jones, now Jay had some problems, Jay had some issues, shall we say, but Jay is now the first black attorney general of Virginia. So Virginia got its first female governor, its first Muslim American lieutenant governor, who is also a woman, and its first black attorney general, all in the same day, right? And so that's the other thing too about reaching these folks. And I know we're going to keep going up the road and eventually talk about New York, but you'll see similar trends in Mondani and how he did with that too. So maybe there's something there in terms of the diversity of the tickets that we put forward as well when it comes to winning those key groups.
Well, also it's not just the diversity.
Mhm,
We talked about, oh, does the Democratic Party have a black male problem? Yes, to a
mhm,
degree, they do. Or a young
mhm,
man problem? Yes, to a
mhm.
degree. But they also just had a quality candidate problem and a messaging problem,
True,
right? Like,
true.
at the end of the day, right? You had two women candidates, right, who
Mhm,
still won, did very well in that young man demographic,
mhm,
but they kept it on practical solutions on issues that really mattered the most,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
We
mhm,
can talk about that other stuff later. We can debate that in between the hedges, right? But
mhm,
when it's
mhm,
time to get in the red zone and you need to
mhm,
score, you need to talk
mhm,
about the plays that's going to get you there.
mhm,
And that
mhm,
is your pockets, the economy,
mhm,
right? Like, and what that looks like. And
mhm.
so, now we're going to try to save some money and not drive to New York, but we're going to catch the Amtrak. You know what I'm saying? Hop on the train and
Mhm,
ride up to New York. Don't mess with the Zoran. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? Don't mess with him, right?
mhm,
Um, you know, running as a Democrat socialist,
mhm.
unapologetic Democrat socialist,
Unapologetic. Yeah.
and he won. And not only did he
Mhm,
win, but he won big, particularly
mhm,
when you talk about all the controversy that surround him. They try to make this about the race baiting in this issue, right? Like
mm,
his stance with, Israel and the Middle East and what goes on there.
mhm,
Um, his socialist views and policies, right? Like, is he gonna lower the rent in New York? We'll see. But if you look at the numbers and pay close attention, um, plus 40 among young men between the ages of 18 and 29.
mhm,
78% of his voters were under 30. 65% of the voters in his race were first time voters.
mhm,
And
mhm.
get this, he also won the black vote.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah.
Why does that matter? Because it shows what a state senator, what's his name, Jabari Bridgeport, New York, that a genuine multiracial working class coalition,
Mhm,
it's not theoretical, right? It can actually win, even in a place like New York, right? And I think we're going to start seeing uh, trending candidates like Mondani try to pop up this next cycle. I
mhm,
mean, we have one with Rua, right?
mhm,
Like,
mhm, mhm.
what does this mean for Rua's candidate? So, I have to ask, would Mondani have won if there was a more legitimate opponent in this race?
I think the answer to that is yes, because fundamentally he won that race because he changed the electorate. He expanded the electorate, and he recognized very early on what his pathway to victory was, and that if it's the same old people that show up to vote, no way they're going to vote for a socialist brown man like me. But if I reach beyond the typical electorate and bring in new people into the process who are hurting, right, and are looking for relief and an outlet and a way to be engaged in the process, then we could pull this off. And so he fundamentally expanded and changed the electorate, and so I believe that he would have been successful regardless. But running against Andrew Cuomo, was that helpful? Absolutely. Running against Andrew Cuomo
Mm,
and Eric Adams, absolutely. That was helpful. But we should not downplay or dismiss the incredible job that he did. And Democrats should not be so stupid as to not recognize what he did, what he accomplished, and what it teaches us about the pathway forward, right? And I was very disappointed with the lack of Democratic support for him. I think Democrats completely misplayed that, and I think again the person who should be the most scared, right, about what happened in New York is Chuck Schumer, because I don't know what else AOC
mm.
would need to see to make her comfortable with a primary. And my personal, my politics are more of more of a moderate to conservative middle Democrat. But if AOC decided to do that, I'd be excited about it, and I'd happily support her. Because we need change in that position, and I think she's the person to do it, and I hope she does it.
You gonna donate some money to her?
I absolutely would.
Oh, well, there you go.
Absolutely would. I absolutely would.
You
Yep.
you know what's interesting about the New York race? They
hmm
just saw their highest turnout since 1969, right? That's not apathy. That's engagement.
And think about it. You got Democrats crapping on this man.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Crapping on this man.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't like that. I think it's stupid strategically. And think about what it says to people that look like him, that share,
Mm,
his political positions, that want to be a part of the party. Think about what you're saying to them. All he did was run. He just ran in the same race that y'all said this is how we choose the people. He just ran and won. But now you want to change the rules and switch it up. What does that say to those 18 to 29-year-olds that he ran and won with? What does that say to all the new people, majority of which came into this process and voted for him? What it says is, we don't want you in the Democratic Party. And tell me how Democrats win elections if people who otherwise would vote for us choose not to vote for us and stay at home.
mm,
They're not voting for
mm,
Republicans. We just don't want to vote for y'all because we didn't feel like we had a home there. And so people got to really think about the ramifications, not only of his victory and what it says, we got to think about the ramifications of how we treated this man, because it was shameful. And even Hakeem Jeffries, like, I love him, but that soft ass endorsement at the 11th hour. Come on, man, like do better.
Could he have run against Mandani and won?
Jeffries,
Yeah.
no, he would have lost. He would have lost. He would have
I
lost.
mean, I spoke of it earlier, but the first thing that rolled out was Rua highlighting her
hmm
relationship with Mandani. Had a
hmm
little fundraising push for it and everything. So it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see if my girl can collect a little coin off his victory, and can she replicate what he did statewide here?
Well, I want to say two things. One, we should remind people who Rua is. Y'all should go back and look and listen to the episode if you haven't. But she's a dynamic state representative, our first sitting elected official on the show, and she is now a candidate for governor in Georgia. And I would say in the Mondani uh, mold. I think she'd be okay with that. If not, she'll tell us. But but of everybody that's running for governor in Georgia, because people always want to say, well, it's New York, so what can you really take from it? Well, here's an example. She's the only person that's running for governor right now of Georgia with the capability to do what he did, which is expand the electorate. And if she expands the electorate, then people should be nervous about that. She's the only one running with the capability to do that. And I think that's exactly what she's going to try to do. So she should not be underestimated.
It's interesting. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution released their poll, was it either today or yesterday? I don't know
Yeah,
why
I
they
saw
did
that.
this,
I laughed at it.
right? And had her at 1%. And so it was like, I wonder what people would think now if you did that poll a week later, given Mondani and given the push that she's gonna try to go on,
And what was the
hopefully.
undecided in that poll
40,
again? 40%, right?
40%.
And so this is what I keep trying to get people to understand about that race. Yes, Mayor Bottoms was at 40%, which is the highest she can get. There's nowhere else for her to go. There's also like no other information for anybody to know about her, right? Their opinions are their opinions of her. So she's kind of capped out. Michael Thurman in the same boat, right? He's at 11%. Good old Jeff Duncan, they still trying to make up their mind about what they want to do there. But he
Mhm,
was pretty decent. He was polling higher than some folks who've been Democrats their whole life and been in the race longer. But
mhm.
most importantly, he's raising money. So when I look at that and I just say that this race is a toss up for Georgia governor. I know people are going to look at the headlines and say 40%, but yes, this far out, you would expect Keisha Lance Bottoms to be ahead that much. And given the fact too that, for what a race stands right now, I think she's still running a pretty good campaign. But you would expect to see that right now, right? But that don't tell you nothing about where this race might be. And you and I know that we did the Maryland governor's race. And we won when we were doing that primary. Yeah, we were at 2% too, and we went on to win. Maryland has 24 counties and jurisdictions, and we went on to win 22 out of the 24, but we were at 3% a year out,
Mhm.
right? So you and I have been through that a million times. So, but I did think it was a fascinating poll. But what I also thought was positive for Keisha is having a black woman win that PSC race, because I still believe one of the hardest challenges she's gonna have is the concern, whether they'll ever voice it or not, which is given Kamala lost Georgia after Joe Biden won it. Stacey Abrams, I don't like to say Stacey Abrams lost twice. Stacey Abrams lost once to me. She won the first time. They stole that. But there's gonna be a hesitation, right? And Keisha's gonna have to overcome that, unfortunately. But looking at that PSC race, it does give her a strong proof point to say, this is me, this is my qualifications, this is what I'm running on. And you can't just sort of lump me into these hypotheticals. I gotta run my race. Here's a black woman just won for PSC, right? So you should give me my opportunity and not sort of hold me to baggage from past elections. But the last thing I say about that, and this might be controversial, and I hope it don't get us in trouble, which, whatever. Um, Ossoff has to feel very good about what happened. But Ossoff don't want no drama on whoever is running with him as governor. And right now, I don't think Ossoff want to run with any of them. I don't think there's anybody in this race that he wants to run with. And oddly enough, I think the person he probably would prefer to run with, quiet as it's kept, is
It's
Jeff
Jeff Duncan.
Duncan, the former Republican. Because I think everybody else is too hot. And I saw a thing here the other day where, what's Burt Jones?
Mhm.
What was one of his first tweets out? His first tweet out was linking Keisha Lance Bottoms, the current front runner for governor in Georgia, with Mondani. Ossoff don't want none of that
Yeah.
happening under
Yeah.
him while he's trying to run this race and win this race. He wants it to be as straightforward and on the issues as possible. And that would suggest you go with the safe white man. And I'm telling you, I still believe a lot of Georgia primary voters are going to arrive at the same conclusion. And that is a very real possibility that the Democratic nominee for governor in Georgia next year is a former Republican.
Let's talk about black women for a second. And in a city that is pretty much ground zero when it comes to so many American struggles that we deal with, right? The uh, municipal bankruptcy, racial inequality, uh, the deindustrialization, right? We're talking about the motor city itself, Detroit,
Mm-hmm.
that chose a new path forward for itself, right? First time uh, they chose to restore black political power to the city, and they selected Mary Sheffield to be its first woman mayor,
Mm-hmm.
first black woman mayor,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of it's interesting, right? Like it has taken this long for Detroit uh, to select a black woman, right? Atlanta's black mayor, black female mayor was damn near 20 years ago, right?
Exactly 20
Yeah,
years ago, I want to say. No, wait a minute. 24 years ago, 2001.
24
Yeah.
years ago. Yeah, 24 years
Yeah.
ago,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Damn,
Mhm. Mhm.
damn.
Mhm.
We got to get her on the show, by the way. Mayor Franklin. I know you
I
don't
know
watch, but
our our heroes are getting older.
yeah.
My fellow Howard
But
Bison.
yeah, your Howard Bison.
My Howard
Um,
Bison.
but this
Surely.
matters in Detroit because it's a broader narrative. Once again, it shows that even we're seeing diversification in some places where black political power historically is trying to be reclaimed and reasserted, right? And I
Mhm.
think
Mhm.
that's important, especially for a place like Detroit.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, it's not a step backwards for them no more.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Communities are choosing their leaders, and they believe the leaders who understand what their neighborhoods need specifically and have the same challenges or specific challenges that they know they can address. And so,
Mhm. Mhm.
where I'm sure Keisha was happy to see um, this restoration happen in Detroit. She was happy to see um, Dr. Johnson. Was it Dr. Johnson? Win here in Georgia. She's happy to
Mhm.
see Abigail and Jersey, with women
Mikey. Yep.
leadership. It's interesting to see how her campaign is going to play things out moving forward for her, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
I think
yeah, I
she has a
mean,
lot of positives to point to from yesterday.
yes, but she's been silent today. I don't even think I saw anything about her supporting those two people on the ticket for PSC here, right? Like every other candidate was out there stumping for him. I don't think much came out of her camp for it, which is a mistake as well.
Well, let me tell you this. I mean, did they want her to?
Huh.
And it's and no, but this is one of the challenges because we've talked about this before on the show, right? Like another challenge that she has is being a former mayor of Atlanta. Like the rest of the state don't like Atlanta. So
Mm,
maybe the PSC people didn't want the former mayor of Atlanta amplifying them.
right, right.
Like that's also a real dynamic, right? That she's gonna have to it's both an asset, but it's also a liability. It just depends on how it's framed and how you use it. And but going back to Mary Sheffield in Detroit, I found that interesting for two reasons. One is she just sounds like a supreme, Mary Sheffield. And so I always wonder
Mm,
like how much that kind of like helped her too. Um, but also, they all you listed some of the troubles and the struggles that Detroit went through, right? They actually elected
still.
a white man
Hmm.
and who was very successful, Mayor Duggan. He's now running for governor as an independent. But he is widely credited, with helping to right the ship in Detroit and was
Mhm,
beloved by black people. This was a majority black city. They had a white mayor. And now the leadership has transitioned back to an African American in their first African American woman. And what you saw happen there was what a lot of people wanted to see happen nationally with Biden and
mhm,
Kamala, where you just, nice, stable white guys sort of rights the ship and then turns it over to a new leadership. But we did a whole episode about fumbling the bag and how we mess up these transitions all the time. But that certainly is one. But what happened in Detroit was beautiful, but to me again it also shows that like the party shouldn't be afraid of embracing diverse leadership, right?
mhm.
But also though uh shouldn't be afraid of embracing diverse leadership, but also shouldn't be afraid of diversity, right? Like the popular mayor was a white guy in charge of a
Mhm,
majority black city, but he wasn't afraid to talk to black people. And what did
mhm.
they do? They voted for him, right? And so we just got to get comfortable with the party that these are our people. Our people are diverse, and either you want to engage with them and mobilize them and come to them with some real stuff, or you don't.
Mhm.
And not just, or you don't, or you just keep losing. And so we got to get real comfortable with that as a party. And then the last thing I say on that too, because I know, we were talking about Georgia and Atlanta and Detroit. When I saw that too, and I saw some of the returns in the municipal elections in Atlanta, it again goes back to one of the things I've been saying for a long time. I don't think Atlanta's going to have a black mayor for much longer. I think within the
We
next
gonna
10
pin that.
years or so, yeah, I'm just saying within the
That's
next 10 years or so,
mm,
the mayor's gonna be white or brown or something.
we gonna pin that because that's a whole different show.
Yeah.
That's a whole different show. Whole different show plus
Mhm.
op-ed. So y'all keep a lookout year out. But what I do want to touch on, two quick hits, before we get ready to bring this to a close.
Mhm.
One, two races that didn't make headlines nationally, but matter enormously, right? Pennsylvania
Mhm.
Supreme Court, right? Democrats
Mhm.
maintained their 5-2 majority there,
Mhm.
in a state that's going to be ground zero once again for election litigation, for gerrymandering fights, for abortion access. This matters because courts decide policy when the legislature is deadlocked. And so um, Pennsylvania Democrats held the line there. And so that's going to be important. Pin, put a pin there. And our favorite state to hate, Mississippi.
I love Mississippi. I like to eat in Mississippi too, especially.
Yes, there's no vegetable in Mississippi.
Mm-mm. Don't need it.
Tomato sauce is probably the only vegetable there. Republicans just lost their supermajority
Mhm.
in Mississippi. Let that sink in for a while because we're talking about Mississippi here, a place that
Mississippi.
just took slavery out the books some 20 years ago, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
They still control the agenda, but they can no longer like really override and override vetoes or ram stuff down in terms of like constitutional amendments without Democrat input. And so
Mhm.
you talk about some real progress. That is some very real but slow progress. And
Mhm. Mhm.
right, it's signs that people are hopefully starting to wake up and pay attention to
Yeah.
something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all you need for them to do is to pay attention to something. Because once you got them there, you can get them down the rabbit hole to where they can get involved and get engaged. Um, and I think closing it out, right? California's Proposition 36,
50.
you know, 50.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know what
Yeah.
Proposition 36 is. What that one
Listen,
do?
I'm experiencing number fatigue. As someone who watched and looked at numbers all day yesterday,
Mm.
uh, I can't wait to look at the alphabet again.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Proposition 50, which basically is a response to the Republican bullshit that's going on in places like Texas and Missouri, and where else is he trying to do?
North
Um,
North Carolina,
North Carolina, right?
everywhere. Yeah, yeah,
So let's talk about that
and
for
the
a little bit.
Supreme Court. Prop 50 is the response to the attack on voting rights through gerrymandering and redistricting that we're seeing happen in Republican legislatures across the country. There's definitely a rush that's on right now to try to uh, get permission from the Supreme Court via the gutting of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act so that Republican legislatures can redraw congressional maps without regard to whether or not those maps give people of color an opportunity for fair representation. And so they want to redraw those maps, make it partisan, to basically ensure that you get more Republican seats. And what that would dramatically do is dilute the power and the voices of Black and brown people in Congress, particularly in the House of Representatives. And so what Gavin Newsom says, and I appreciate Gavin Newsom for this. What Gavin Newsom said is basically fuck around and find out. So they fucked around and they found out. And so he said, "Well, fuck it. I'm gonna get a ballot initiative pushed through. I'm just gonna redraw all my shit in California, and I just make sure ain't no Republicans, that there ain't no Republican congressional seats, and that will offset what some of you folks are trying to do in places like a North Carolina or South Carolina, like a South Carolina, for example. If the Supreme Court allows it, they just gonna draw out the seat of the only Black member and the only Democrat." And so Gavin Newsom showed real leadership there. He got it done. He stood up to Republicans. And he did something that I think is good for democracy in the sense that we're pushing back on what I think is an assault on democracy, but this is not how these things should be decided. But Democrats cannot be we can't unilaterally disarm, right? You can't
Right,
abide by rules and follow rules and the other side doesn't have any.
right, right.
So you gotta match energy. It's what a lot of people have been clamoring for Democrats to do. And Gavin Newsom is like bet. And so he matched energy and got one done there. And then I'll say with Virginia, not Virginia, but with Pennsylvania, that Supreme Court race, and also in Mississippi, it again just shows the power of
Uh-huh,
paying attention to down ballot, right? And how important those
uh-huh.
races is. That Supreme Court race is just as important as PSC in Georgia, and then just as important as winning the state Senate race in Mississippi. Did you win the governor's race in Mississippi? No. But with that state Senate race, you can still get a lot done. And so we just got to be Democrats everywhere, right? When we talk about a 50 state strategy, we need a 50 state strategy. And we need to get back to that. We need to get back to organizing. And we just need to put as
Mhm,
many wins on the table as possible. And those races are good microcosms of what we saw all across the country. Sure, the governor's races and stuff like that are what's going to get the bulk of the headlines, but it's that those down ballot races as well deserve just as much attention because we got to build pipelines and we gotta win as Democrats everywhere.
I'm smiling here because you just did my recap closing. Which is I mean, again, so just to recap,
Right.
what does all this mean? What can we take from this? Like, one, organization matters, right? Like we talked about several times in past episodes and op-eds, right? We need to be doing year-round voter registration. We need to be doing, year-round organizing program. Again, Georgia didn't flip those seats by accident, right? It took years to kind of build that, right? And so that's why organizing matters. Two,
Hmm.
young men aren't a lost cause for Democrats, right? But we got to give them something to vote for, right? And Spanberger, Cheryl, and yes, Mondani all did that in different ways, right? Which three is the coalition isn't breaking down, right? It's
Hmm.
evolving.
Hmm.
Mondani won a black vote. Sheffield won in Detroit.
Hmm.
These aren't contradictory facts, right? They're data points that we really need to look at. in a much larger story, and how communities are thinking about the interests of the voters.
Mhm.
Four, moderate and progressive lanes can both win, right? Like it's not an either or. They can do it in the same cycle.
Mhm.
Um, the question isn't which lane is right, it's whether candidates can in either lane pick the correct message and deliver it where it resonates with the voters across all lines, right?
That's right.
And it's based off voters' lived experience, right? It's not,
That's right.
you can only talk about what you know, and if you don't know it, then you can't talk about it.
That's right. That's right.
Um, Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say to that point, we get into this liberal, progressive, or conservative thing, and it ain't about any of that. It's about can you build a coalition?
Can you build a
Can
coalition?
you build a
And
coalition?
then, lastly, five, down ballot races actually matter. Like the PSC in Georgia, the state Supreme Court in Pennsylvania, you got the state Senate in Mississippi. These races help shape daily life so much as any governor or senator would or congressperson,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
you really got
Mhm.
to think about, collectively, what does it all mean, right? If you on a team and your point guard is not singing the same song, everybody else is gonna break down. Or
Mhm.
if your offensive line got holes in it, they're gonna see through it, right? So
Mhm.
you got to know that down ballot races help build the top of the ticket just as much as it builds the bottom of the ticket. And so the narrative after the presidential election, that Democrats are in disarray, that they've lost working people, that young men have abandoned the party entirely. These results help disprove that, right? But it can't be a one off. You have to continuously build on it. You have to continuously invest in that and quit trying to complicate things significantly, right? Like, is as simple as it is everyday life. All politics is local, right?
Mhm.
Um, and so, I think we're going to now have another post-election like evaluation like over the next month. I mean, we're still in a
Mhm.
shutdown. It'll be interesting to see after these results what happens to the shutdown and what does that really mean. Um, but yeah,
Well,
man, I think
we got a
go
piece
ahead.
out on that too. I think Democrats have to be careful about that too with the shutdown politics. Like it might feel like you ahead right now, you got a little bit of an advantage, but the point of the piece, the most recent piece that we put out is that that has a shelf life. After a certain
Uh-huh.
point, people just blame both of you,
Uh-huh.
and they don't really care about which party is in charge. So, I hope the lesson that we take from this election is not that we should dig in deeper on the shutdown. I think that's very dangerous.
Mm, mm. So, we close out with our Mamba Award. I think our Mamba Award needs to go to Democrats, right? Like, we won across the board in places that we need to win. We stuck
Hmm.
with a key message. We, did some soul searching, some infrastructure analysis, and realized that organization does matter. And so I think I'm gonna give my award to the Democrats across the country.
Well, I'm gonna give it to us. That's part of Democrats across the country. I'm gonna give it to us because so much of what we talked about and covered, kind of taking folks around the country, all these different races and campaigns. We had our hands in them, so we weren't just observers. We were also practitioners, and I'm proud. So proud and can't believe I'm still doing this. Uh, I've said multiple times I was going to retire and solely just focused on corporate work, but I always find a way back into these damn campaigns and elections, man.
Listen, I don't have many left in me. Uh, um, my y'all see me switching over. My body hurts. Like y'all, my body hurts.
Mhm. Mhm.
But until then, friends, we really appreciate you guys for listening. We haven't missed a beat. We'll return back to our regular bat time, regular bat channel. Until then, I need y'all to stay engaged. I need y'all to stay informed. And remember, politics isn't just about what happens in Washington. It's about what happens in Public Service Commission, on your
Mm,
light bill, on your
mhm,
medical, your medical statements, in the
mhm,
state courts, in your city
mhm,
council chambers, right? Like in your school board rooms, in your classrooms, right? And so,
mhm.
y'all take care, and just open your eyes and realize that real lies, real lies. Peace.
Peace. Thank y'all.